Um, this is a critical time. When I use the word critical, that's not meant to invoke any fear or lower vibration. Um, it's it's um, it's it's actually meant so that we understand we're almost there. Okay, so I mean this from my heart. Okay, um, because it's actually quite simple. If you live in fear of what love is, then that's obviously unsane. Okay. And fear is a vibration. It's a low vibration that allows them to easily control us. Um, Particularly when you grow up as a child and you didn't really know any difference between what you are in vibrational speed, which is higher than what they are, and so you know the difference between what they are and what you are, and then knew that this was a spiritual war. Okay. Between those that are trying to control what it is we experience by using all the control levers in which they do it with. Okay, so in other words, um, you can pick any point in history, human history on this planet that you want. I did this. It's why one of the reasons why when I was a child, the first thing that I looked at when I was looking at scientific manuals, okay, is not the technology itself. The technology itself is nothing more than, no different than looking back 175 years ago when they talked about the Industrial Revolution. Somebody figures out how to put a combustion motor together. 50 years later, they come up with an automobile that can take you around from point A to point B, right? And then they go from a car to, say, a jet. Well, if you've ever taken the time to measure what's called the speed of information transfer between one mind and, say, 1,000 other minds, people that are now aware in the morphogenetic field structure that they're now at a place in which the information just left off at a skill set that said, hey, we just built a jet. If you tried to use the information that is represented about how energy takes place, how energy moves through space-time, and then you come up with a brilliant idea on how to put together a magnetic motor, for example, and say, man, I can move past a time clock. I can use the energy of the universe in which to travel at speeds unheard of before. They find out that you know how to do that, they'll simply come and take your toys away or they'll kill you. Okay? Because of the nature of the way that they want to control the allocation of the units of energy which represent electrical currency that they control. See? And the basis of that control was to keep everybody in a lower vibrational state in which they could use everybody as an energy slave to work for them. That's basic physics. So when you sort of knew this at a very young age, then it becomes a matter of, okay, so how long have they been doing this? So then when you go back in time, you begin to realize it doesn't have anything to do with technology. Because being able to go through space and time, if you will, has been around forever. Because your consciousness can do that. Okay, so you don't need technology to do that. Okay, your mind can do that. Okay, so this was never about technology per se. This was always about spirit, the nature of our spirit. That means this is a spiritual war between the living and the dead. Okay, demons can't generate any living light. Therefore, that means they feed on it. That's the basic truth of it. That's how you know at a young age you're in a spiritual war, because you're experiencing energy that is not what we're experiencing. We're not experiencing the loving light in which living spirit gives love to others. Instead, we're experiencing energy that is draining it. Thus, it becomes distorted. because you realize that you're experiencing energies that are all over the map, which means there isn't any peace, there isn't any harmony, and there isn't any balance. How come? Now, you wouldn't know that unless you had your own, what's known as a frame of reference, because you are what peace is. You know how to live in harmony. You are what love is in living light. And when you are that and you know that because you're in a state of peace, in a state of peace of mind, then it's easy to know the difference between someone that is and someone that isn't. So then the obvious question is, how come? Well, the obvious answer to that is trauma. Okay? So it begins with trauma. And once you've experienced trauma and you're a soul, then you live in fear of going back to relive that trauma because it's not a pleasant experience. So we create an amnesic barrier in which we split the light. And that becomes a paradox between living in fear and being what love is in the light. So that's a fracture. And that becomes a split in the timeline. Because fear obviously doesn't go on forever. Because if you live in fear of what love is, then you're going to be feeding on somebody else's light in perpetuity until you get your light back and become a lighthouse again. That's the nature of the challenge. That's why healers and peacekeepers and teachers become a source of not only healing to restore the light within you as a result of the trauma that we've all experienced, but it also becomes the truth because you begin to realize, well, of course, love is life force. That's living energy. So when we are experiencing living energy, which is what we are living in the light, then we know that we are experiencing the source from which all life comes. And that's the truth. So it becomes easy to tell the truth living in the light, because we don't live in any fear. Because love is the absence of a fear vibration. So those of us that want to be in a state of fear obviously are trying to drain our light. Why? Because they lost. See? So this is where the belief system, whether you believe fear is more powerful than love, or you believe that love is more powerful than fear, is being tested on election day. And that's why they have to crank everything up. To do everything they can to turn the heart cold, keep it cold. Because anybody that knows what love is, that knows what light is, knows what President Trump represents. Because all you have to do is look at everything he's been trying to do. Why would you have the mass media attacking him the way that they have? They're scared. They're in fear. They're in fear of that light. They're in fear of all our light. That's their worst nightmare, is to lose what they've been feeding on as parasites. Because now they don't have a choice between either being an energy producer, which is what a lighthouse is, or they collapse their own timeline and live out and experience what they've chosen by what they've created to experience what will collapse. Which is just like the first empire they created that collapsed as a result of self-indulgence. The sense of entitlement, where they feed off everybody else as if somebody else owes them something. The universe doesn't owe you anything. It starts with us, which means it starts with light. And when we are what light is, which is what love is, then it's natural to be an energy giver, because the energy that we're giving away, we get more of automatically. That becomes a known. Now you know. Now you know how it works. Because you've experienced how it works. That's why I've mentioned before on another video. It doesn't really matter what I have to say to anybody, to be truthful with you. Okay? I could sit here and put up 1,000 videos and get 10,000 viewers that all give me thumbs up. But it isn't going to make a hill of beans, if that's not how they live their life, which is living in the light of what love is, to actually experience what it's like to love somebody unconditionally. Where you're not expecting something back from somebody in order for you to give them what it is you are, which is what love is, which is what light is in living spirit. Now, as simple as that sounds, and as simple as that may be for me to express how it is I experience what I experience, for another being who watches this video to say, well, that's what I am too, because if you are, then you and I are in alignment with each other. Because the amount of energy that you experience that I experience are going to be in waveform harmony with each other, which means you and I will be in peace together. And we can live in peace together for eternity, because we're living in the eternal light that makes it so. And when you know that and I know that, then we're both living in the truth, aren't we? Which means we don't live in any fear, and we don't live in any fear of telling that truth. So we don't need to compartmentalize anything, and we don't need to masquerade anything. Which means you don't need to prove anything to anybody. Because you are the living truth already, being what that light is, and others can see that light in you. That's your own reinforcement, because you become a powerful magnet. They love to be around that energy because they can trust it. Love is energy that is trusting because it will not harm you. These are what I call self-evident truths. But to know that, it means we have to experience that. And we've experienced that and we know that, then we are that. That's the most important thing. So I know that during this particular time, because I've been noticing energy videos popping up at the time in which they're popping up, because at the time in which this is, like they used to say, the witching hour. Because there's only what? Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 3 days to go, and then you'll hit, what is it, November 3rd? So don't be surprised, with all the videos that pop up on YouTube and everywhere else, in the newspapers. The carnival barkers are going to be out barking real loud with all their fear-based stuff like crazy. So what I would say to everybody is what I am. Try as best we can to be in a state of peace amid all their chaos. Living in peace above all their chaos. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth for the evening, because I know how difficult and challenging it can be for people that are experiencing everything that they're experiencing right now. Because I know that, as that one lady who was a bus driver said to me the other day, is there any way that you can help my daughter? Please, I'll pay you. You have no idea how painful that is to hear a woman who's in her 50s practically beg me if I can help her daughter because she knows she's so programmed. She's a college graduate, or is just finishing her college degree. Programmed. And here I just saw something that sort of relates to the program. And somehow, I don't like to find a sense of humor in it, but when you experience it directly, even in the awake community, it's easy to know why that particular behavioral trait is presented in the way in which it is. So I gave her a nice comment to her to sort of let her know that, hey, you're beautiful just to be with, because when you come on, we can feel your heart, and all that good stuff, right? Because you could see when she comes on to do her video, and this is Kirsten, and I love Kirsten W., okay? But she was fooling with the light because she wanted to make sure that she was presenting herself in the way that she wants you to perceive her as beautiful, okay? That I'm not going to be happy, I'm not going to be content, I'm not going to be peace with myself until I make sure that I've put myself in front of the camera exactly the way that I'm supposed to present myself to the camera. Okay, otherwise I'm not going to be happy unless it's just the light is just right, right? I thought, God, girl, you didn't even have to do that. You know what? You're just as beautiful to experience your voice and the message. It's okay. You don't have to go through all that. I love you just the same. We care about you and love you just the same. So where did that behavior originate from? I'll give you 3 sources I can think about. 17 Magazine, Cosmopolitan Magazine. You know how it is. Women were sexually objectified. Okay, she was a model. So it's all about presentation. It's important for me to present myself in a very particular way for the camera. Remember all the selfies and stuff? Okay. Why? Remember? All I have to do is go back to childhood, and I looked at everything, it's like it's the oldest trick in the book, okay? Which basically means if you think that you're ever going to find peace, joy, and happiness, okay, outside of yourself, ain't never going to happen, okay? If you're not feeling a state of peace, a state of joy, a state of happiness within your own soul and spirit, okay, then there isn't any amount of money, there isn't any amount of gifts, there isn't any amount of toys, no matter how many Christmas trees with all the gifts underneath they give you, that's all material form, is ever going to do that, no matter what. You know how we know that? Go out and buy yourself a brand new car. Or go out and buy your girlfriend a brand new car and just give it to her. And then watch what happens over time. Look how little care that car gets after a month, 2 months, 6 months. Look at all the stuff that gets bought and ends up collecting dust. They're all temporary, huh? So what is the one thing that we know that lasts forever? Love is. So learning to love ourselves again is the greatest challenge. When we're feeling love for who we are in that mirror, which is what love is in living spirit that is in that living light, then we realize we have everything that we need, don't we? That's energy. That's pure energy. That's pure light. That's pure unconditional love. That's the love we have for ourselves that we share with others, because that's the energy we are experiencing. And when we are experiencing what that is as our core frequency identity, then we are naturally giving away energy without even having to think about it. Which means you are in a perpetual state of peace, or in a perpetual state of joy, or in a perpetual state of happiness. We are the source from which it all comes. That's what source is. Becoming that and being that is recovering our light. which is recovering our spirit, which is recovering our energy. And that happens from within us. Those that share the love with others to help them heal becomes the acknowledgement of that energy that we experience through them, that we experience within ourselves, which restores the love we feel within ourselves and remember who we are. Because we are what love is, and love and service to the entire cosmos, because that allows all of us to thrive together in it. That's what living light is. That's what Source is. That's what we are. I love you all. You all have a good night. Bye.